Hey, Taoping Airlines Math and History, and we're going to be discussing about an update that happened to our YouTube channel. So, since the new school year has started and I joined a math team for our school, we are now starting a new channel, but it doesn't mean that Taoping Airlines will stop running. It will still be running because for Taoping Airlines, it will be focusing on the curriculums, what we'll be doing at school. But with the new channel, we're going to be focusing on what kind of problems we do on the math team. So the new channel is going to be called the Math Union of Hand, because Hand is the name of our school. And we're the math team of Hand. So we're going to be discussing and talking about how we solve math problems, but most of the problems are not related to school problems. So this is a separate channel for people who love math or who like to be on the math team. So what we're going to do on the first video of our new channel is discuss what double fractions. In 2010, we had a problem that looked like this, and it was in one of our practice meets. We have to solve this problem, but our answer must be in simplest form. So our answer has to be as simple as possible. But wait, this is not one ordinary, just one fraction. They're double fractions. So what are we supposed to do? Seeing double fractions in the school curriculum is not usual and is very rare when you're in your algebra years. So what we're going to do with this problem is we're going to have to find out what 1/3 plus 3/5 first is. Then our next step is to do 1 plus 5/3. Then we have to divide the two. So let's start with the top one. We're adding 1/3 and 3/5. When you're adding two fractions, but with different denominators, that also means the bottom number, what we're going to try and do is find the common denominator so the denominators can be the same and we can easily add the two fractions. It's very difficult to just add without getting the denominator the same. That'll take a lot of time. So what we can do is have the find the 3 go into something that can be both.
Explanation. I'm still in bed and I'm having a nightmare. Wake up! Hey.
Thanks for SpongeBob for showing us what the common denominators are. So to find one, we have to have these two numbers get to a number that can be multiplied by themselves. So 3 and 5 can both go into 15. That is our denominators for two fractions. So if you multiply that by 3 and multiply that by 3, 5 times 3 is 15, 3 times 3 is 9. On the top one, 3 times 5 is 15, and 1 times 5 is going to be 5. So pretty much what we did is saying 3/5 is the same thing as 9/15, and 1/3 is the same thing as 5/15. These two being added together is almost the same as these two added together, but there are different fractions, but they have the same value. So when we do that, we're going to get an answer of 14/15. 1/3 plus 3/5 is 14/15. So that is the top. Now we gotta find the bottom one. 1 plus 5 over 3. So we have 1 plus 5 over 3, but 1 is just 1, or just a number. We want to turn that into a fraction. So 1 can be the same thing as saying 1 over 1, or we have 1 of 1. So what we can do is now we get to find the common denominator again. So let's find two things that we have in common.
What's your name, handsome stranger? My name is SpongeBob SquarePants. Wow! We look alike and we have the same name! That's two things we have in common! I always wanted a twin brother. How do you feel about Bubbles? I love him! Jellyfishing? The same thing you do.
How about Squidward? Oh, please.
I think I'll nickname you. Me too.
5 and 3, and here's 1 and 1. What we can do is multiply both numbers by 1. Multiply this by 1, multiply that by 1, we get 5 over 3, and the top one is going to be 3, because we want to try and get 3 as our denominator. So 1 times 2 is 3, and 1 times 2 is 3. Now we get to add the two, since now we have the same common denominator. We have an answer of 8 over 3. So guess what happens? We got to insert that right over here, and we start dividing. So we still have double fractions, because we have 14 over 15 divided by 8 over 3. But fractions are pretty much their own equation, because if you do 1 over 2, 1/2, if you do 1 divided by 2 on a calculator, you're going to get an answer of 0.5 or 0.5. And if you do 1 over 4, that is going to be the same thing as 0.25. So pretty much a fraction actually is its own equation. And since we have a fraction over a fraction, that line right here can be the same thing as a division sign. Here's another way of looking at it. 14 over 15 divided by 8 over 3. So pretty much having it set up this way can be the same thing as having it set up this way. But how do we divide easily? What we can do is actually multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal means to have the numerator and the denominator switch places.
Oh, yeah. Woohoo! I'm the winner! Oh, yeah. Who's number 1 now? Me?
So 14 over 15 multiplied by 3 over 8 instead, because we switched. We're going to get an answer of 42 over 120. But that is an answer, but we have to have the answer in our simplest form. So we can simplify this by 2. So half of 42 and half of 120 is 21 over 60. But we can't half that again. But that is not in our simplest answer. What we can do is get it even simpler. We get an answer of 20 and 7 over 20, because we get to divide by 3 here and divide by 3 here. 7 over 20 is actually our simplest answer. So we have now solved the problem to a practice problem in 2010 in our math club. The reason why we multiply by the reciprocal is because dividing and multiplying are almost the same, but they're actually different. When you divide, you're actually trying to split into groups. And when you multiply, you're trying to get the product, and what you're trying to do is make more. Like double, triple, and etc. So when you're multiplying, it usually goes this way when you're multiplying by positive numbers, but when you're dividing, the number that you get as an answer is usually going to be a smaller number. That's why we multiply by the reciprocal, the opposite of dividing. Thank you for watching Tao Penalized the Math Industry, and thank you for watching our very first video on the Math Union of Hand. Like and subscribe.